going on, everybody? It's Garrett here for What is Smart. What is Smart is brought to you by
Thinkering Media, our brand new partner in humanizing education. We're excited to be sponsored and promoted by Thinkering Media and the work.
Welcome, everybody, to What is Smart. I'm Garrett, as you know, here back again with another amazing person where we talk about this incredible question, what is smart? The fact that I get a million different answers only points to the irony of the exact question and word, what is smart? What is smart is brought to you by Thinkering Collective. Thinkering Collective, we are on a mission. We want 10,000 educators over the course of 5 years, affecting over 20 million learners' lives in the mission to humanize education. Tech is an amazing thing, friends, but if we let it go too far, we lose the humanity in human. And so we need your help. We need you to go to thinkeringcollective.org and donate. And where does this money go to? It doesn't go to my pocket. It goes to these amazing capstone projects we build with our fellows across the world. What's currently? Well, we've got a STEM bus being built in Nigeria. What else do we have? Great question, Garrett. I'm glad that you asked. We're building gardens in my own county, Loudoun County, in their schools. We're also building a social emotional learning curriculum for gifted learners. A lot of the times, those learners are the ones that need it the most. So these are projects that we're currently building. You can go check it out on our thinkeringcollective.org page, or you can go over to our Substack, that's thinkeringmedia.substack.com. Go there, check out the media. We were just at a few conferences, great content. So today we have Colleen Broderick. She's a former colleague. We worked together at Alt School. I'm so excited to introduce you to Colleen because her perspective on learning, her career, her sustained vision and mission in not only humanizing learning, but getting down to the science of how to be an amazing educator and how to actually change the systemic problems in education. We'll see you soon. Oh, okay, everybody, we're back. Welcome to What is Smart, the podcast where we dive into bold ideas, curious minds, and innovative approaches shaping the future of learning. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Colleen, an educational leader whose journey has spanned Silicon Valley to Switzerland, Boulder to Brazil, and classrooms across the globe. Colleen has spent her career designing learning experiences that center possibility, equity, and transformation, ensuring that all learners, no matter their background, have opportunities to thrive. We can't wait to explore how she thinks about change, community, and what smart really means in education today. So let's welcome Colleen. Colleen, welcome to What is Smart.
Thank you. It's a real treat to be here. I'm very humbled to be included in the number of folks you have curated for this. So good on you, Garrett. You are doing amazing work, and I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you so much, Colleen. And for those that don't know, which is probably everyone, Colleen and I shared time and space together in person in San Francisco when the first school I ever founded, Berthold Academy, became Alt School's first ever beta partner in discovering how to take this personalized learning, almost like the first in the way I look at it, personalized learning platform to market, how to bring it to private schools, and we helped shape that together. But I could talk about that all day. I don't want to. I want to talk about you, Colleen. And so we always start What is Smart with the big question, the X-Men #1. We want to hear your origin story. And so, Colleen, tell the listeners and viewers, like how you got into education. What has this path been for you?
Yeah, it's a really beautiful question, and it gave me a little bit of pause. I think I did not start out in education. I graduated with a degree in English and business and went into publishing. I always loved literature, and so I was going to be, an editor. So off I went, and within 2 months, just discovered it was, for me, the most boring job ever, which, I think happens to a lot of graduates, right? We think we have this trajectory in life and know what it's going to be, and then we land there and it's not what we expected. So from that, I was just like, I need to find something else, and went to work for a camp of all places.
That's how I got started.
Yeah, well, it's where you get to know kids, right? This
Yep,
is where
yep.
you fall in love with kids, and
Love it.
that's exactly what happened. I was leading bike trips and just was fascinated by hanging out with young people, how they saw the world, how they made sense of things. And from that experience, really thought, well, I'm just going to combine my love of books, my love of kids, and I'm going to be an English high school teacher. So I went back to school and got connected with a few very progressive professors, one, Tom Gregory, and he was advising me on my dissertation at the time, which was experiential education in mainstream schools. So I was really looking to combine those. And I discovered Maurice Gibbons and his work on walkabouts and looking at the model of the Aborigine walkabout as a model for schooling, really looking at passages into adulthood, and saw it as a really beautiful analogy of how do we support young people in, quote unquote, training for something meaningful and purposeful, building a set of competencies, stepping into a space where they can test themselves, step into their agency and contribute to community. And that really became, I think, a little bit, just the North Star for me of what I have just been seeking to be in and create alongside schools, communities, kids, the whole deal. Yeah. So that was really the start of it. And from that, God, Garrett, I think we're close to 30 years in this game. And
Incredible.
Six countries later, 9 schools later, 2 startups, foundations, national organizations. I feel like I've tried it all.
You certainly have, and God, what a commitment and career. And if anybody has a broad perspective to it, it's definitely you. You said it, 6 countries. You and Switzerland, which the vibe there is the best way I could describe it, is they're doing a lot right when it comes to education in a lot of ways, as I think other Nordic and even European countries are. And so what do you see within schools and school environments and learning environments, over in Switzerland that differentiates it, whether good or bad, without getting you in trouble, of course, from typical and traditional public American schools, which you've also had experience with in your journey? So what would you see the differences there?
It's a great question, and I think I can answer it a couple of different ways. One, the school I had the most kind of relationship with was the school I was working at, which was an international baccalaureate school.
Very cool.
And so we had 53 different nationalities. We worked with students from age 5 all the way through grade 12. And certainly a large part of our population was Swiss students. And as a result, I was very fortunate to be able to explore and understand a little bit how they think about education as well. I think the thing that strikes me the most is it's because education is systemic, it's also so cultural. And I think, I was very surprised, maybe naive, when I moved to Switzerland. I was not expecting their depth of the collective. They are a country that really does good for all, and that's kind of their orientation on life. They're very intergenerational. Many still live near or with their grandparents, and I think that just really moves into their educational system. It's very, very community based. It's very collaborative in nature. Certainly high standards. Their apprenticeship program is probably one of the best in the world. You know, I think their telephone company is something like 70% interns working at that company. And so all those pieces that we think about as sometimes add-ons in our own system are just part of the DNA, the fiber of how they approach learning. And and at the time, I was also living in a very rural area, and like it was beautiful to see interns as farmers, as you know, and it wasn't always like these big corporate plays, but what does it look like to be and learn in community really struck me there.
And yeah, oh gosh, I think about that so deeply because some of the work I currently do with Thinkering Collective, and previously I had another nonprofit, the Gardens Foundation, which is a research organization. We researched in the future learner profile. So like what that future learner 20 years from now needs to know in order to be successful. And one of the things that we thought and found very interesting was the factor of locality. And so how do you see locality play into the learning outcomes of the future?
Well, that's a beautiful question. I mean, I think it's central, right? I think it is, it's the best way to say it. Context is everything, right?
Yes.
And I think it's really tricky to assume that we can take models or that we can take tools and expect them to play out the same in any environment. Because what is relevant and what is true for a group of people in one place is not relevant and true for a group of people in another place. So I love that that's what you were investigating. And I think it comes into like how instrumental relationship is, you know. I think that's a huge, huge piece of it.
Absolutely. And like I think about the future, like report card, right? Is currently you have a report card, academics, social, emotional. My kiddo was nice in class. 20 years from now, it's this.
Yeah.
The academic piece is down here. I try to like paint the world because I do think when you step into the world of Silicon Valley, like even when we were I often think that, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place because I'm excited, but I often think that the conversations that we were having, I don't even know how many years ago, Colleen, 10, 12, 13?
I think we're on 11 now. Probably 11.
Yeah, so like,
Crazy.
I felt like those were early, right?
Yeah.
Like these were early conversations, and, you know, talking about how important the personalization of a child's learning is. And I think over the course of 10 years following that, 11 years, as you say, it just seems like yesterday, right? But like what I've learned is that all of the things that kids will need in 20 years have little to do with the current content-driven model that we deploy across the United States of America. And so, and that was very long-winded in getting there, but it you know, and I could get very much deeper into all of that, but I think at a layman's term for those listeners out there, very little has changed systemically in the United States. I think innovation is happening in amazing silos across the country. A lot of times, though, that innovation is driven by Title I schools that are in poverty and things like those are where the magic is mostly happening right now. talking about systemic change, and I know the work you do, especially with the immunity to change framework. I'm super interested in that. So talk to me about, when it comes to systemic change, what is the personal role in that? Like, what does personal transformation have to do with, the framework, and then overall the systemic change? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about 100 years of unlearning. So ready, go, solve it.
Yeah, right. It's one of my favorite things. I lead a lot of professional development, or I facilitate groups, and they tend to be in with folks that are in conversation around what is possible, and often, the system comes up as a barrier, and it always gives me pause because we are the system.
The system.
I think
Amen.
so often we're like, the system is something out there. The system is something that we as humans have created, and we as humans have the potential and the agency to change that system. But you are absolutely right. Change starts from within. It starts from a place of deep responsibility. It starts from a place of deep listening. It starts from a place of acknowledging that we need to let go of those things that we think to be true, because that may not necessarily be the case. I love that you brought up immunity to change. It's one of my favorite tools, and it's so simple. But in its elegance, I think it has such huge impact. But very briefly, it's this naming of, like, we know we can put the list together of everything that needs to be done to really ensure that we are serving all children well. Like, we know it. We could sit there and write the list. And when you think about, well, why aren't we doing that? There is this immunity. There is almost like, as Bob Keegan would say, we have one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, right? There is something that has equal weight and that we're holding on to that's actually preventing us from that change. And when I use this tool, in coaching is where I typically use it, I have discovered that there is a pattern that often those things that we are holding on to that prevent us from truly stepping into those things that perhaps can make a real change. It's because our identity feels threatened. It's because there's a fear of failure, because the cost of failure is often so high, right? These impediments are personal impediments. And so until we really interrogate those, you're right. Like us, the system changing is going to take time. I believe the system is changing. I believe it's quite slow. I think in some ways, it's funny when we open the conversation like, oh, you've been in it a while. I think this is the most hopeful I've actually felt in education. I've had some pretty dark years, but I am sensing that there is just a lot of energy in terms of people recognizing we can't keep doing this anymore. We can't keep doing this to children anymore. The cost is too high.
And the world no longer maps, obviously. Like, that's, I think, the difference is 10, 11 years ago, we're in Silicon Valley. You see the future in Silicon Valley. Like, it's always 10 years ahead of, like, technology-wise, a lot of the pretty much the rest of the country. And I think now, because of things like AI, because kids are so in a negative way on the other side of technology, just kind of just embedded in their everyday life, there's this sense of urgency when it comes to what we're doing with our kiddos. We see it all the time in the news with people being so polarized on education. And, I kind of look at that again in that sense of hope of like, yes, like people are being totally irrational, but they actually care. Like, amazing. Like that to me is like, oh, you're actually looking into this. You're actually trying to understand. We can't be judgmental, period. But if you're going to, it has to be informed in some way.
Yeah.
You can't just say like, oh, we know that the school system isn't, serving our kids. Well, why? And I think parents even are starting to ask that why. And we see that with, 1,000 kids on average per school system leaving school. Parents being like, we're not doing this anymore. Like, whatever that means to that school system is whatever it means. But overall, on a macro, we're seeing parents, kids, everybody is getting to this place of like, this is not working. I can't invest in some dream of an idea for almost $1 million in college to come out and have no idea what I want to do with my life. And imagine a journey. I remember when Max Ventilla, who we both know, said this to me. He's like, imagine a world where kids are empowered to be who they are and what they're great at from such a young age. Like, and yes, that's going to change, but self-awareness doesn't.
Yeah.
The practice of self-awareness, that doesn't change whatsoever. And so I do see, because we say a lot in my schools as like almost a mantra is one, drop the ego, trust the child. They're always going to tell you like where to go, what to do, especially in early learning. And two, your intention has to be good, your care has to be sincere, and you have to commit to being a better person every day because it's the sincerity, right? Like kids, as you know, Colleen, like kids sniff it out. If you're insincere, if you tell a kid, like, let's do breathing, and you never meditate or you never practice mindfulness or you do, and yet you want your kids to do it, you're never going to get an authentic buy-in because they sniff it out.
Yeah.
And so I always say, like, if you really want to be in this honorable, as we both agree, career, right, then you need to commit to being a better self, a better person, because that journey alone is everything a child, going back to your call out of the Aboriginal walk, is like the hero's journey, right? Like goes back to this hero's journey of what I think a life of purpose is driven by, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but one of the things talking about hope, right, is I love to hear from anyone I'm really interviewing because the answers are so amazing. It's not the title question, but more so, can you think about a recent moment in the classroom, a project or a conversation, right, that made you feel directly hopeful about the future of learning?
Yeah, I think one that comes to mind, in fact, when I was leaving my position at Switzerland, one of my kind of final asks was that I wanted to teach a class, that I had been in leadership for a long time. And though I had spent a lot of time in classrooms, I wasn't responsible for a class. And I think that's very, very different from, taking attendance to really walking alongside students in their journey. And so I really wanted to be in the classroom at that level before leaving the school. And so I was working with a group of 10th graders, and we were actually speaking about happiness and what makes them feel fulfilled. And so we were doing an exercise. Gosh, I almost want to pull this up. We were doing an exercise that essentially talking about happiness and well-being as a system, as a personal system. And a lot of this was coming from work that I had done with MIT's Center for Systems Awareness. And so one of the exercises that we were doing was kind of looking at a system, just like the analogy we're using as a bathtub, is, what in your world fills your happiness or your well-being, how they define well-being, and what was detracting from it. So every student, and I had about 23 kids in the room, had created this visual. And then to put this visual up on the wall and see not only this one child system, their family, the experience they were having as an individual, but what it looked like collectively across that classroom. There was such beauty in what they named in terms of what contributed to their well-being, the simplicity of it sometimes. It was heart-wrenching to see some of what detracted. But I think what was so beautiful and hopeful in that moment is they took responsibility in this acknowledgement and awareness of what was happening across their peers, of what they could do to support lessening some of the detractions from each other's well-being. And I think part of it was the visual piece of to create visibility of a system. It's hard to change what you cannot see, right? So to create that visibility, that shared vision of what was happening, and then to take responsibility for one, if not two, in that small community. I was like, yes, like this is all it is. It can be this simple.
The magnitude, I think, too, of like visually seeing the power of that. I think, God, I would love if you, like, after the show, if you want to send me that picture.
I'm actually going to, there's one student that I've kept his visual because, he was, 15, and I was just like, I hope I'm as wise when I grow up as this 15-year-old is, of just what he saw in the world. And I think it goes back to what you were saying, Garrett. Before us in the classroom or next to us, however we may sit with children, is such beauty and potential. And I think I've stuck in the work so long because I know collectively we can bring that potential to life. Yeah. And I hope that for every educator. I sound like so, woo-woo, but I really, in my heart, I believe it.
It's not woo-woo anymore. That's the thing is, one of the things I'm doing on my end with, you've heard me mention Thinkering Collective is like, we think about this innovation across the world happening, the work you're doing, just people that have transformative thought about learning. And we decided we were going to assemble the Avengers of Education was the goal, right? Let's do this. Let's pull everybody together. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's going to be messy. Yes, we don't know what it's going to look like. And that was like step one. Talk about a constructivist experience, right? Is like, we just threw everybody into this one Zoom call that we could find and pull in that would commit to doing it. And what we found was, one, we're not alone. Like, there's so many people out there. For the educator that thinks you're solo and caring and like actually juiced at what you want to do, you're not. There's a million other educators just like you. Talk about hope. There are a million other organizations that are down for the unification in what we look at as humanizing learning. Is really putting the same thing we're talking about right now, is the simplest happiness. If happiness comes back to the simplest ideas and the simplest needs, then I do believe we're fully overcomplicating things. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we are intrinsically driven and motivated to learn, yet we get in the way of that natural process at scale. And it's just,
Yeah.
it's nice to know that, you know, even telling that story about, you know, what makes people happy, what deters them from happiness, you could do that anywhere, I bet. And
Mm-hmm.
you would get very similar through lines. Yep.
Absolutely. And you'd get really, really different details. And that's where the beauty is, right?
The
That's where,
context,
yeah,
it's
the
everything.
context.
Yep.
Exactly. The
Oh
context.
man. And so, gosh, there's so much I want to talk to you about because, and we definitely got to, you know, figure out how we can play together, talk about, this is a great segue, by the way, play together in the future because we're definitely doing a lot of similar, at least thinking. I would,
Mhm.
you know, but I definitely want to talk about your work. Um, you're doing, from what I understand, some work with ASU. Are you still doing that?
I have moved on from ASU. I
Got it.
I will put out there what I was doing because I do think your listeners may find it interesting and maybe want to check it out. But I worked on a project inside the Teachers College called the Next Education Workforce Team. And essentially, what we were looking at and what we were doing within schools was really kind of breaking some of the foundational grammar of school, that one teacher, one classroom model. And instead, we're really working to reimagine how we might organize ourselves as a team and bringing educators together to, yes, serve a larger number of students in different ways that allowed them to lean into their strengths, their passions, where they wanted to grow, and for students to be able to kind of move through a little bit more flexible spaces, working with different adults in different dimensions in different ways. You know, I think as I reflect on my career, I have really just kind of tried to play with so many different levers, whether it was curriculum or instruction, or whether it was leadership within a school or something larger. And this was really getting at just the fundamental way that we organize our time and space and relationship together. So it's super, super fun work. I was leading the professional learning side of it, so working with educators and kind of making that shift of what would it look like to kind of break down those silos and how might they come together as teams. So diving very deeply into team dynamics and how we plan together and strategize together, how we know ourselves, going back to what we were talking about, so that we can lean into those strengths. It's good work. It's worthy of your listeners, or if you people watch this, checking out, because I think they're doing some really beautiful things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And you know, I would love again to touch base in the future. I did a concept called the Ohana School that was a micro school, and it was team based. So it was, rather than having you know, two educators per classroom, it was a large open room, furniture breaking up the space, materials, all of that, and then you had a multitude of educators that collectively worked together for
Yep.
every learner.
Yep. And what was beautiful about it, it's exactly that. And the integration of what does it mean to be an educator. So community members coming in and working with small kids, maybe having students read to them. What role do other people in the school building play? I think, like you were saying, if there's an educator out there listening, you're not alone. I think education, so strangely, is such an isolating career. You know, I would
Hmm.
go into my classroom and it would not be unusual not to talk to another adult until the end of the day. And how is that sustainable, right? And I think how we rethink how we are together in spaces and how we do the work together is equally as compelling to me as what is the work that we're doing. So yeah,
Oh,
I think it would be very, very interesting if folks wanted to check that out.
definitely, definitely. Now, on to Play Lab. I'm super interested in, because part of the work we do, again, with Thinkering is our fellowships, which empower educators to pull off amazing projects in their
Mhm.
classrooms. And sometimes that drives an app or
Yeah.
technology or whatever it may be. Talk to us a little bit about your work with PlayLab.ai.
Yeah, so it's funny. I left ASU and I was really spending most of my time coaching. I was working with leaders and doing consulting work. And like I thought that was going to be it. I was going to ride into the sunset, be my own boss, and then started to learn about Play Lab. Supported them through one of their PLCs, their free PLCs, and really started to fall in love with what they were trying to accomplish. Then had the opportunity to talk to members of the team and Yusuf in particular. I was like, okay, I'm all in. Like I'm giving up on what I thought was going to be my path, and let's see what we can do together. So Play Lab is really about, we are a nonprofit ed tech company in which we fundamentally believe that if AI really is what we believe and what we're seeing, a force that is likely to shape our future, then we want educators and students alike to actively be shaping that future as well. So with PlayLab, educators and students are invited into the work alongside us to work within the platform and create apps that solve problems that are relevant to them. I know, like going back to alt school, as I think as earnest and as intentional and as thoughtful and as good as that platform was, it didn't fit in all places. And so
Right.
there was a lot of bending that people needed to do. And I think that's true of most technology. You're always trying to hack it in some way. So we really are committed to empowering people to build the tools they need. And it's amazing to me. This was why I was so excited by the company, is because in those PLCs, I had purview of, what 50, 60 educators, and these are folks at all kind of dimensions of education, whether they're district leaders or principals or educators in the classroom. Um, I just saw the problems that they were trying to solve. You could look across this group of 50 people and see some of them didn't want to be spending as much time on operations as they needed to because it would free them up to do X, Y, or Z. Or this teacher was really trying to understand more deeply how they might be able to give first round of feedback to students so that second round, when they're in conversation with kids, could be deeper and more relevant to where that student was trying to grow. So for me, it was really fun. Again, it provided visibility to the system, and it's putting in the hands of teachers and students alike the power to impact that system. So my role is on the student side, and we're just getting up and going on how to really empower kids in the same way that adults typically have access to really shape a future that matters to them.
They're going to be oh God, that work sounds amazing. And they're going to be the ones that shape it, right?
And
Like
they're going to be the ones that shape it. And they're
it's
so
not us. Yeah.
creative.
And
They're just not
because,
bound by the paradigm yet. They are still in their when they're at their best, when we can give those and create those conditions for them to be at their best. They are creative, they are curious, they are collaborative, they are all those things that when we get out of the way, they fully step into and just create such interesting, sometimes hysterical, sometimes profound solutions to things that matter to them. Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm
Yeah, I
super.
absolutely love that work. And I did not know that you were on the student side. What an amazing opportunity. We are moving from a software as a service world to a software at your service
Mhm. Oh, that's
world.
beautiful. Yeah, I love
Yeah, I honestly, the reason I even said that, and yes, I said it a couple times before, is more so the realization myself, because I do build tech. I've got a lot of stuff going on, but I do build tech, and I do build the tech for Thinkering Collective. And the fact that, yes, it does take a lot of know-how still to get it done, but someone that was an educator and still is an educator, I like to think of myself more as a learner for the rest of my life, is that which makes me a great educator, because I just want to learn and listen, is um, having the profound moment of the tech that we all wish, talk about alt school, we all wish was available. When I had the aha moment that the tech had arrived, I
it.
think most people got scared, and I got really excited because of
Mhm.
this shaping, because of this, okay, the tech is here, and now it's time to actually understand what we should be building here, and what we can help frame up and
Mhm.
boundary, because it's going to go crazy. Once this happens, as we have already seen, AI quickly is in every device that we're on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
so if we lose track of it, it's our work at Thinkering, is if we lose track of that, if we lose sight of what it means to be human, then it will happen quickly. But I do think that the benefit on the hope side is that AI is driving us to understand what it means to be human
yeah,
better and
yeah,
more.
yeah.
Um,
It's
so
something you
that
said, something you said I just want to jump in on real quickly is I think like you, there's a certain sense of excitement when I think about the possibilities with the technology. And I think we are quite fortunate and privileged where typically we have had access to those things. And I really appreciate Play Lab's commitment to ensuring that this is an act of equity as much as it is an act of anything else. That those that maybe typically do not have the same invitation to shape foundational tools of society, we need to bring them closer to the center of the work. And so I can appreciate the tensions sometimes that exist between communities and their response to technology or AI in particular, really with the goal of ensuring that one, we empower everyone to understand exactly what's happening. It's not magic. It's not human. It is seeking out patterns and predictions, right? And those patterns and predictions come from its training that often continue to minimize those that are marginalized. And so let's bring those voices center in the conversation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because you're right, and I haven't even looked at it from that lens, in the sense of the socioeconomic diversity of training and
Mhm.
output. But I'm sure that there's, like, as you said, we know that there's a tone.
Yeah.
AI has a tone,
Yeah.
and I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing. But if you look at AI as trying to be as objective as possible, the moment it has a tone is
Yeah.
the moment you have to really, and I think we're there. So, like you said, bringing voices in that would not necessarily know the how, where
Yeah.
the fear of tackling an app, which used to require 3 buildings full of people, to where now, someone like PlayLab, is building out tools to allow that to happen and work with people that know how these things roll out, that
Mhm.
and how to get proper buy-in if you're rolling out a tool, and really how to have that mindset of like, what do I need? Let me build it,
Right,
which I
right.
think is
Comes back to
overall amazing.
context. We cannot assume what is relevant for others, right?
Yeah, and we
They
learned
know.
that journey.
They know.
Yep, we learned that, and that was part of the alt school learning, was to have to kind of be such a boundary, I guess, for schools that are trying to do transformative work. Are you even looking at schools in the sense of looking at a marginalized community? Are you bringing the voice of that school that could be doing? There's a school right down the road, Eastern Ridge School, very low tech. It's a Reggio focused outdoor
Mhm.
school, right? Amazing, amazing work they're doing there. Is what would they build if they were given the freedom? Gives me
Yeah.
goosebumps.
Awesome inquiry right there.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of awesome inquiry, it's been phenomenal having you on the show today. I think it's just, and honestly, I forgot we were doing a show. We were just having a
I know.
conversation, which is awesome. But we ask all of our guests on this show, and I think that your perspective is one that I'm extremely interested in. As we look at our school system mapping to the real world, as we watch the statistics lower in a lot of ways, right? Based on this kind of systemic understanding of smart and intelligence. Based on your career, Colleen, what is smart? What is smart to you?
Yeah. I I probably would have answered this so differently at different stages of my journey. I think today I would say, and I'm just going to say today because maybe tomorrow it'll be different. I would say I don't think smart is a trait. I think smart is a relationship. I think it's a relationship between a person and the world that they're trying to understand, that they're trying to shape, and that they care for. And I think we have treated smart as something you have, right? Maybe it's high scores or quick recall, but I think that definition really collapses under the complexity of our world. And I think today demands more than cognitive, like individual cognitive, I guess horsepower is the word. But it requires like a lot more capacities that allow us to navigate complexity together.
Relationships. That's
Relation.
like, to me, that's like those two words mean the same thing: complexity and relationship, right?
Mhm.
Like every relationship is different. One of my favorite answers, besides yours, which is amazing, that's the first person that said relational, and is from Dr. Damian Bevel, who said smart is contextual and evolving.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that was like the perfect way in my mind of saying, smart is relative to the person. It's relative to the locality. It's relative to there's so many aspects that define smart in the situation. And frankly, the name of the show is me trying to end that word, because, like you said, like, it's meant to be an adjective, right?
yeah,
It's meant to be a descriptive word, yet the description is so subjective that, how do you, like, slimy is slimy. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, that's the way I kind of look at it, is smart is this definition that kids feel destroyed by. It's this terminology. It's this perception of a character that no longer maps to reality. And how many children have experienced such a negative experience from not being smart or someone, you know what I mean? Like, oh, so anyway, I just wanted to thank you again, Colleen. It's the work you're doing. It matters, as you may not know at times, or you may know, like having those moments with kids, having those side by side back in the classroom, authentic, just unrepeatable, undescribable moments that keep you in it. I hope that you continue in your career to put yourself in those positions of sometimes what I look at uncomfort, but in that uncomfort drives such an amazing horsepower. I'll go back to your word, to continue the work that you're doing. And Colleen, if people wanted to see that work, or they wanted to check out where to find you on the internet, what would you send to them?
Well, I would first send you to playlab.ai, and it's that simple. You can learn a lot more about our work there. And then in terms of finding out more about me, you can go to newvya, NEWVYA.com, and easy to reach me through there as well.
Amazing, Colleen. Thanks again. And thank you all for listening, watching, whatever you do with this show when it's on. We truly appreciate you listening, and we look forward to having the next amazing guest on What is Smart. Make sure to check out thinkringcollective.org. Make sure to visit Colleen. The work she's doing is, again, transformative, amazing. If you're listening to this podcast, you care about her work, period. We'll see you guys next time. Have a fantastic day, and mahalo. What's going on, everybody? It's Garrett here for What is Smart. What is Smart is brought to you by
Thinkering Media, our brand new partner in humanizing education. We're excited to be sponsored and promoted by Thinkering Media and the work